Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
Good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. I'm very honored to have you on today. And maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. Well, I'm Justin Somerville. I'm the founder and CEO of Mayfield Athletics. Founded the company in May of 2014, and we are a sports safety equipment company with a focus on reducing concussions in sports and other consumer markets. And we're making progress towards that goal.
Can you bring us back to your college days? So what's your background and what did you study, and were you always entrepreneurial minded?
I've always been entrepreneurial minded. Going back to when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was coming up with things and drawing out things that are in the market today. And I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't develop those then, but I was 9 years old. What was I going to do? As far as my personal education, surprisingly, I was homeschooled until I went to college. I went to Macomb Community College for 2 years. I think my parents were one of the pioneers of homeschooling when they homeschooled me, but I was homeschooled until I went to college.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that you would be drawing designs and coming up with ideas back when you were a kid. And these were just were you just really into, design?
Not so much design, but always coming up with a better way to do things. I look at a problem, I look at an issue, and I always am thinking of a better way to do it. And one example of that is the offset wrench. Aspen came several years ago, but I came up with that idea when I was 8 or 9. The offset wrench is a wrench that has a 90-degree attachment at the end of it to get into those hard-to-reach places where you can't get a regular wrench. And I came up with that idea when I was very young. And that's one of those ideas that's out on the market now that I had, but I never pursued.
Back when I was a kid, it's weird. I wasn't as entrepreneurial minded as you, but I would always seem to think that when I was a kid and if I'd have an idea, there's probably an adult out there that had a better idea. And so my ideas wouldn't count because I was just a kid. But now when I look back on it, kids have a lot of great ideas, sometimes better than the adults.
They do. And I was kind of the same mindset as well. If I had the idea, there was probably 15, 20 adults that had the same idea and were already pursuing that.
Yeah.
But in reality, that's just not the case. Kids
Right.
do have good ideas and they should be pursued.
Can you talk a bit about what did you study in college?
This is going to be very unexciting, but it was general studies.
Okay, what is general studies?
Anything. You're just talking basic algebra, English, just basic counting, anything that you can think of. Just get to your credits to get the associate's degree. That's what I took.
And then moving forward, after you graduated college, since you didn't really have a specific specialization, what did you go on to do after that?
So being an entrepreneur, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, always come up with a better way to do things. But however, when I was 17, I started working during the summer as an electrician, and life circumstances just kind of took place, and I did electrical work for probably close to 15 years. I was a journeyman electrician. I still am. So I did that for a number of years. I also was a home inspector. And in the midst of all that, I also published a children's book, which is out there as well too. But never really had a passion for that. As far as electrical work goes, I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, never wanted to work for somebody else. Finally took the plunge and did my own thing in 2014.
I wanted to ask about the children's book.
Yes. So the book is called Forgetful Freddy. It's about a forgetful squirrel who learns to cross the street safely. It's not literary genius by any stretch, but it's a fun book and my kids enjoy it.
Oh, nice. So where'd that idea come from? Because that's very random, out of the blue, publishing a children's book.
It is. So I went through an illness in 2010, and I had a lot of time to think. And during the midst of that illness, I came up with the idea for this book. And when I recovered enough to actually pursue executing that, I went through the publishing process and published the book.
And did you design all the illustrations, or how did you go about that?
I had an idea of the illustrations. Unfortunately, I'm not an artist, but I worked with an artist and told him exactly what I wanted in the illustrations, and we got it done that way.
How long did all of it take?
It took several months. The publisher that I used was Mindster Media.
Okay.
And it was fairly cost effective. I wound up with a great product, and like I said, my kids love it. A lot of other kids love it, I hope, as well.
So you had mentioned that you had published the children's book, you worked as an electrician, you did a couple of different things. And then in 2014, you jumped into your business.
Yeah, so kind of along the same lines of thinking, I'm always thinking of a better way to do things. I'm a big sports fan, big football fan. Never had the chance to play organized sports myself, but I love sports and love football. And I watch a lot of football. And in watching football games, I noticed that the front area of the helmet, particularly the face mask, there was nothing to absorb shock from below to the face mask. And so I came up with a product that anybody could put on in 5 minutes or less and make their helmet safer. And I came up with the concept in 2014. really went over it in my mind quite a few times, put it down on paper, changed it a few more times, then I went and started the patent process.
What is that like? I had an idea for something a couple years ago. It never came to fruition, but I looked at the patent process and it was very long, very extensive. What did you go through to actually get this put out as a patent?
Yeah, so the patent process is a very interesting process, and it's a process that I'm still learning about to this day. But pretty much you have to have an idea. If you have an idea, you can pursue it. You can have an idea that's scratched out on a napkin, but you have to have an idea. And you go into the patent office, and the first thing that they'll do is do a patent search. We'll search to be sure that your idea is not already taken. Like it or not, everybody has an idea, but sometimes that idea somebody else thought of first. So that's the first thing that they'll do is get the patent search completed. Once that's done, you can start developing your prototype, and they'll, on their end, go through the patent process, which involves a lot of writing checks. It is a very expensive process. And you can choose to either go just for a US patent, or you can add on European and other countries' patent protection as well. So it's a very extensive process, but it's a very interesting process. And you can expect probably 3 to 5 years normally to get the patent issued, if it does get issued. Mine was kind of an exception to that. The first patent I had was issued within, I believe, 13 to 14 months. It was pretty quick, but that's an exception. It usually takes 3 to 5 years.
How long did it take you to revise the idea before you brought it to become a patent?
Probably a few months. Like I said, I went over it in my head a few times before I actually wrote it down. I actually have the original sketches, the 3 different versions that I have framed. So I have those still. Once I had those sketches, I actually took a amount of modeling clay and I actually modeled out the first prototype, if you will. I took that into the patent office. So I was a little bit farther along than I think a lot of people are. A lot of people, like I said, they just have an idea scratched out on a napkin or a piece of paper, and you can go into the patent office and start the process with that.
When you revise this, because it's just a small clip, right? The product
That's correct, yes.
onto the helmet. What kind of major changes did you make along the way? Like if you looked back at your very, very first thing that you had scratched down on a napkin to what it is now, what are some major things that you say you would have changed along the way? I'm just curious because I'm wondering how much you can really change to such a small product.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So in the patent process, the goal of a patent is to be as vague as possible. That sounds weird, but that's the goal of a patent, is to be as vague as possible. The more specific you are with a patent, the easier it is for somebody to design a product around that. So the point is to be very vague. So we had a little bit of leeway as far as the actual design goes of the product. And I did make a number of changes throughout the development of the product. Originally, one of the components is a plate. In the first plate design I had, it had a lot of sharp corners. And in development, obviously sharp corners are not a good idea. So that was one of the first things that I changed. I changed from a metal plate to a plastic plate during the development process. So there was a number of different changes. And I changed the diameter of certain things and the measurements of certain things, but that was all within the patent. And like I said, the goal of the patent is to be as vaguely specific as possible.
Why did it only take like you said, around 14 months to get?
Basically, the simple answer to that is nobody else was doing what we were doing. There was nothing else on the market like we had, and nothing else was in process or development. So we were able to go through that process fairly quickly. It's a simple product. It was a simple patent to procure. Relatively simple. Nothing's ever that simple, but it was relatively simple compared to a lot of other products that are out there. So I think that's why we were able to get through so quickly.
I'm surprised, I guess, that there was nothing else out there, right, that was pending, because it seems like an obvious thing, right, that you'd want something to safeguard yourself while you're playing football or hockey or anything. But after you got your patent issued, where did you go from there? And was that the very first step? You didn't have an LLC, like when you started business?
Right. I started, the company I started in 2014 was Mayfield. And just a little bit of background on that name, Hobart was my grandfather's name, and Mayfield was the town he was from in Kentucky. So I named it after my grandfather. But the first thing I did was get the company. The first thing process-wise, I went and procured or started the patent process. But in the midst of that, I started developing the actual product itself. I got some 3D prints of the product made. I started putting it together on the helmet, made sure it fit correctly. And so I was kind of doing a couple things in parallel.
From 2014, because now it's not called Hobart Mayfield, right? It's just called Mayfield Athletics.
That's correct.
What happened with the name change?
Funny story. I work a lot with Tech It's an incubator in Detroit. And Jerry Roston, he was an entrepreneur in residence there. We had a meeting with him. I forget exactly when. I think it was 2017, 2018. And he flat out said, "Your name sucks." Because we were developing the athletic product, and our name had nothing to do with athletics. So that was our first brutally honest statement that our name needed to be changed. And so that is when we came up with the name Mayfield Athletics. It's a funny story. It's an honest story. I appreciate brutal honesty. So that's why we changed the name, and it's still an homage to my grandfather. And we still named it Mayfield Athletics, so I was still able to keep that. But our official company name is Hobart Mayfield still to this day.
Okay.
This is Mayfield Athletics.
I know in the beginning you talked about, this is the product we make, but how exactly does it work and who can use it?
So as far as who can use it, anybody can use it. You're talking about Pee Wee League players all the way up to the NFL level. Anybody can use this product. And what it does is it replaces the existing clips on the face mask now. Our clip allows the face mask to move back on impact and absorb and dissipate both translational and rotational forces. And like I said, it's something that you can take off and you can put on in 5 minutes and be safer right away.
When you said it replaces the existing clip, I don't exactly know all the features on a football helmet, but is there a clip already there?
That's correct. Yeah. So right now there's a hard plastic loop is the best way to describe it. It's a hard plastic loop that holds the face mask to the helmet. That clip, like I said, is hard plastic. There's no give to that. It doesn't absorb any impact force. So when you get a blow to the face mask, all those impact forces are going directly into your head and neck. There's nowhere for that impact force to go. And our clip gives that impact force somewhere to go, and we allow it to be absorbed and dissipated.
In 2014, you started your business, you got the patent, and then from there, where did you go? Because it's been like 7 years?
6 years since I started the company, yeah. So we went through a long development process. Originally, I didn't have a lot of cash or resources to put into the product development, so it was a slow process. In 2016, I brought on a business partner. Rich Williams is my business partner. He is our back-end operations specialist. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm more of a visionary development type person. He handles a lot of the operational things, so I brought on a business partner, and we continued to develop it and get the development completed, and then we set out to get an actual customer to wear it. In 2017, we were able to get Oxford High School on board. They were the first high school in the country to fully adopt our product.
So was this, between 2014 to 2017, you had one business partner and you guys were trying to, expand your customer base. So it took 3 years just to get the word out?
Yeah, it takes a long time, especially when you have a new product and trying to break into an established industry. It takes a while to get people comfortable enough to try your product. Even if it is a safer product, which ours is, it still takes a while for people to feel confident enough to use that product. However, I will say that I wish all our customers were like the Oxford athletic director. We sold him in 5 minutes. We walked in there, we showed him the product, showed him what it did, and he said, yes, I want it. Wow. So I wish all athletic directors were that forward thinking, but we're making progress.
Well, is this a high school in Detroit?
It's actually in Oxford, Michigan. Oxford High School. Yes, so they supplied 160 helmets with our product.
Does it work with any other sport, hockey or any other types of helmets?
It does. That's a great question too. So right now it's configured for football, but hockey and lacrosse are our next areas of growth. It absolutely does apply to those as well. Our patent actually covers any helmet that utilizes a face mask. So that would be the next area that we grow into.
How many people are currently working in your company? Is it just you and your business partner?
So I'm full-time, my business partner is part-time. We're still looking, this year has not been easy for any business. So we're looking to gain additional resources. But yeah, that was the biggest thing early on, was gaining the resources that we needed to complete or even start the development. Right. And so I was able to get a small SBA loan to get us down the road. And from there, we actually brought on a top-notch legal team who I consider great friends now. And they really hooked us up with a lot of investment advice and help, and we started to raise funds that way as well.
So going to needing resources, like somebody in your position a couple of years ago, how would they go about raising funding, raising awareness, and how did you secure all the funding? And, you said that you got Oxford High School after 3 years, but what was all that process like? You probably needed funding as well before you even got the
developing a new product is very expensive. You're talking about several different prototypes. You have to create the tooling to make that product. You have to get it tested. The testing is not cheap. You have to get it certified if there is certification. So it is a very expensive process. Originally, like I said, we brought on that top-notch legal team. We started talking to them about investment purposes. But even before we got our first customer, we had to have resources. That's a pretty involved process as well, to get your pitch deck where it needs to be, to excite the investors that you're talking to, and even getting the meetings. You have to have the right contacts to get in touch with the right people to really get the opportunity to raise those resources. So it's a very involved process, but it's one that you can get 97 no's. All you need is one. You need one yes. You don't need 97 people to say yes. You need one person to say yes. And that's one piece of advice that I would say is, don't get discouraged by everybody that says no. You don't need everybody to say yes.
Where would you go to get those connections if you don't have any connections to the industry that you're making a product for, and you need to get funding from people who are in industry, right? Or investors?
Yes, yeah. So the simple answer is anywhere that you can. Attend network events, talk to as many people as you can. The more people that you network with, they in turn would know people that might be able to help you. So that's what I did. I attended every networking event that I could. I talked to as many people as I could. I utilized whatever resources were at my disposal to get the connections. And I used places like TechTown to gain connections. I actually worked with Wayne State as well to do some of our early testing. We gained some resources out of there as well. The simple answer is use whatever you can to gain the opportunities to raise the money that you need.
After you got your first client, which was Oxford High School, how quickly did the word spread after that? Like, how easy was it to get? Is it easier to gain, I guess, more customers when you already have that first customer and the word starts spreading?
It is. I mean, we raised a pretty significant amount of capital, and that got us through the development process of our product journey. But to gain the customers, you also have to have resources to put into marketing and get your name and product out in the public eye. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So the answer is yes, it should be easier as we gain more customers to gain additional customers on top of those. But it's still right now a grassroots or organic effort. We're using a lot of word of mouth. We're talking to a lot of people that are related to Oxford High School and the other schools that we have on board now. To get your word out there properly, you have to have resources to put into marketing and sales. Not everything can be done for free, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, how has COVID affected your business? High schools, universities, those are probably big areas where you would target, but they're closed, right? So
yeah, this is, honestly been a really tough year. Sports being paused for much of the year hasn't helped. We just weren't able to talk to any coaches or athletic directors because they simply weren't there. The schools were closed for a little bit of time as well. So I feel like we're starting to come out of the COVID tunnel a little bit. People are starting to re-engage with sports. I think the concern right now with the sports world is just getting on the field, quite honestly, as opposed to looking for a better product for their players. But I think, sports are going to come back fully, 100% with fans at some point. So we just have to carry on and make sure that we're there to be ready to meet the demand when it comes.
And then when you are advertising, like you said, it's more of a grassroots organization right now. So you're just word of mouth and you're just trying to reach out to people. Do you guys have an Instagram page or do you advertise on there?
We do have an Instagram page. We utilize Twitter, we utilize Facebook. But even there, we need to do a targeted social media campaign. And there's only so much that you can do for free. I'd be glad to share the handles for our social media pages as well. But, we need to grow our network. We need to really push out advertising on all those platforms.
I would like to link the social media handles in the description of the podcast and publish it so people can find it as well. Who are your main competitors at the moment? Because you said when you were issuing the patent, right, you didn't really have any people making anything similar, but has that changed? Because it's been quite a while.
To date, nobody is doing what we're doing. I would say that our main competitors are the existing clips that are on the helmets today. People are very comfortable and used to the existing clips that are on there now. So again, we're just trying to educate people as to the benefits of our product. But those are our main competitors. So you're talking about the three top manufacturer football helmets right now, Riddell, Schutt, and Zenith. Those are probably our top three competitors.
From the very beginning, when you started this, right, you had the idea, and a lot of entrepreneurs, you'll have the idea, you'll make your business, but then you probably also had a mission in mind. What's your end goal or what's your mission with this company?
Our mission is to make athletes safer. Whatever sport that we branch out into, that's our goal, that's our mission. All ages, all levels of competition, we want to make athletes safer.
Probably a very satisfying feeling as well to see that you help prevent these injuries. Do you guys have statistics to see versus someone or a team of people who were wearing these versus those who were not and how it has helped?
Yes. So, marketing wise, we legally cannot say that we reduce or eliminate concussions because that would open us up to a lot of legal issues. But we would do reduce impact forces. And we've gotten data from a couple of high schools that utilize our product. One saw a 67% reduction in concussions the first year they used SafeClip. Another saw a 100% reduction the first year that they used SafeClip. So we're pretty excited about the field data. We've done a lot of lab testing over the development process, but the field data that we get means way more to me than the lab testing that we've done.
Right, because it's actual human life, yeah.
Exactly.
if I were wanting to buy it, would I just go on the website and you ship it out to any country, or is it only within the US, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we've actually sold quite a few units overseas. We have a few units over in Europe. We have a few over in Australia as well. But yeah, you can go on our website and you can order 1 or 2 units or more if you would like.
Hmm.
But obviously, we also talk directly to the high schools and youth leagues, NFL teams as well. So we'll sell to an entire team. But yeah, you can go on our website today and buy a single unit of Safe Clip if you would like.
How long do they last?
Yeah, so our warranty is for 2 years. Obviously, football is an impact sport, so no matter what you put on the helmet, it's going to get dinged up. It's going to get damaged.
Right.
We would warranty our product for 2 years, and then you would rebuy the product.
So usually you'd expect it to last a couple years
Right.
if you're continuously playing. Okay. And then in terms of being a business owner, what are your daily responsibilities like?
So, being a startup and in the position we're in, I do everything. You name it, I probably have my hands in it. I do a little bit of marketing, a little bit of operations. It's kind of an all hands on deck situation. As we scale up, I plan on delegating some of those responsibilities out, but right now I do everything, or mostly everything. Obviously with my business partner as well, but that's the name of the game with a startup. You got to be prepared to do anything.
Because you had started it in 2014, like it's been 6, 7 years. What are the steps, I would say? So the very first step, you have the idea, you have the patent, then you register the company. Maybe you have a business partner, or maybe you don't, and then you try to get the word out. What are the steps? When do you really start making revenue, or how long does it take? Can you walk us through that for someone who has like no background in business?
Yeah, so I would say that would vary depending what the product is, what the company is, but it takes a while for you to really start gaining profitability. You're not going to be profitable overnight. I would say that 99.9% of startups out there now are not overnight successes. You have a lot of stories like ours. It's been a 6 or 7 year process to gain market traction and really get the revenue rolling. I would say that we're a very common story in the world of startups.
Mhm.
Nobody is an overnight success, but the results that I see on the horizon are worth it, and that's why I'm continuing to push forward.
Going back maybe to high school student, college student who's entrepreneurial minded, what advice would you give them if they have an idea but they don't really know where to start?
I would say the first thing you do, like I said, is make sure you have an idea, at least document it. You have to have a description of it or a drawing of it.
Mhm.
And then pretty much you got to find a patent attorney. There's a number of patent law offices that do specifically patent work in the United States, or whatever state you're in. There's probably numerous patent law attorneys. So I would seek one of those out. You can set up a consultation with them. They can either do it in phone or right now in 2020, probably Zoom. but you can consult with them. They'll tell you what next steps that you need to take.
Did you end up having a patent law attorney, or did you just do everything yourself?
No, we have actually 2 patent law offices working on a couple different products for us.
Oh, like in the very beginning when you were trying to patent the clip.
I did have one. So I went to a patent law that was actually referred to me by a relative of mine. He had done some work with this patent law office. So I utilized what opportunities and resources that I had, and I went and talked to them.
Because what I was mentioning earlier, when I had this idea and I was looking into the patents, I read online that some people used a patent lawyer and other people didn't. And I wasn't really sure, whether it was worth it. But you're the first person I talked to who did utilize it.
It's definitely worth getting a patent attorney because they know all the ins and outs and intricacies of the patent process. So it's definitely worth it, in my opinion, to seek out a patent-specific attorney.
If you could start your business over, you went back like 10 years back and you could do something different, what would you do anything different, and what would it be?
I'll be honest and say that we've definitely made some mistakes along the way, and I don't think we're unique in that regard either. I would say, however, that looking back, I would not do a whole lot different. Like I said, we've made mistakes, but those mistakes we've learned from, and that's helped our building process. So I think that mistakes really make you stronger and you come back better from them. At this point, there are things I might do a little bit differently, but I wouldn't make wholesale changes.
I'm sure, as a business grows, there's always going to be mistakes that, like you said, you learn from. But what have some of your biggest challenges been, or obstacles that you've had to overcome?
I would say one of the biggest challenges that we've had is just really fleshing out our team properly, getting the right people in the right place. I would say the most important thing as you build the team for your company is really vet the people out that you bring into your circle. You got to make sure that you work well with them. Make sure you work well with them in the good times, but also the bad times as well, because there will be tough times in building a business. You have to make sure that people that are on your team are equipped to handle both.
For entrepreneurs, what would you recommend that they invest their time in? Like early entrepreneurs, someone like just who wants to have a startup or right in the beginning of a startup?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is to protect your idea. If it is worthy of intellectual property, make sure that you protect that idea. The problem is if you don't get that protection and you go ahead with the development process, somebody else will take that from you. You have to protect your intellectual property at all costs. It's very expensive, but it's worth the time and money to do that.
When you say protect, do you just mean like patent the idea right away so no one can take it?
That's correct. And even with the patent not issued, the fact that you have a patent pending, which you see that on a lot of products today, you see the patent pending, that means that you are protected. You have your place in line. Nobody else can take that idea from you, or it's very hard to do so.
I didn't know that. Good to know.
Yeah. In fact, if you look at a lot of products out on the market today, they will have those words on them. If you look in certain areas on the product, it'll have the words patent pending on it. That's why it's not been issued yet. It's pending. It's in the process.
If you make changes to a patent over time, like I'm sure with a product, you're constantly improving it. What is the process like if you try to go back and edit your patent?
So it depends on what the edit is. If it is a small change within the patent, there's not a whole lot that needs to be done. If it's something completely different or a new angle on the product, you would have to file a new patent. It just depends, and that's why it's worth having a patent attorney that knows that process in and out. Well, that's another reason. You look at products, they will have multiple patents listed. Some of them have 5, 6, 7, probably even more on some of them. That's why. They come up with the first patent, they make a change, and they have to file an additional patent for that. Also, to expand your protection, it's a good idea to do that as well. If you come up with another idea that makes it stronger, it's a good idea to patent that as well.
Where do you see your business going in 10 years?
So in 10 years, I want us to be the go-to company for safety products, specifically related to helmets. We have SafeClip on the field now. This project is developing an entire helmet system based on the technology that we use for SafeClip. And I'm very excited about that. So in 10 years, I expect us to be the leader in head protection, and very excited to get there.
So can you tell us a bit about what technologies you have coming up in the future?
Yeah, so we are working right now on developing a helmet system. Helmet technology for the last 30, 40 years has remained relatively unchanged. If you look at the helmet from the 1970s and helmet now, it might look newer, it's cool, but it's basically the same technology that's been around for a number of years. We're taking all the current technology and we're tossing it. We're approaching helmet protection from a completely different angle, and we're very excited to do that. I always look to nature for inspiration, and the inspiration for the helmet system was the mountain goat. They're able to absorb a tremendous amount of impact without getting injured. And
Like the mountain goats with the curly horns?
That's correct. Yes, they have a skull that has liquid in between two separate layers. And, obviously we can't have liquid in the helmet. It'd be incredibly heavy, but I base the technology on that inspiration.
When you say new helmet technology, this is not just a clip on the helmet. Like, are you working on a whole new helmet?
Yes, we're working on an entire helmet system. So it would include the bonnet, which is the entire helmet area. And obviously that would include SafeClip as well. SafeClip would be part of that new technology. But the applications for that technology are immense. You're talking any sports that utilize a helmet we would apply to. There's also military applications for a helmet system. You're talking construction helmets, motorcycle helmets, anything that you can think of that utilizes a helmet, this technology would apply to. So we're pretty excited about that.
Kind of an extension of the clip you had, but this is like a whole new helmet with the clip, so you wouldn't be buying them separately.
When our helmet is ready for the market, for certain applications, SafeClip would already be installed on it. So you would buy it together. For certain applications, they don't utilize a face mask.
Right.
So it wouldn't apply there, but for certain applications that utilize a face mask, yes, you would buy both products together.
I'm curious now that you mentioned the helmet technology. I'm wondering, how do helmets differ when it comes to, military use, for just regular helmets in terms of military use, football, hockey?
There's a little bit of differentiation in the sports world. Some sports are less impact than others. I mean, in lacrosse, there's perhaps less helmet impacts than in football. So you have to design the technology a little slightly different to be sufficient for both of those sports. So there's a little bit of leeway in the sports world. As far as the military goes, obviously they are looking for ballistics, which is, stopping a bullet. That's their main focus. But there are applications in the military as well that are looking to reduce impact. One example of that would be tankers. They bounce around in the tank, and there's a lot of stuff to hit your head on in the tank when you're riding around in it. So they're looking for a better helmet to absorb impact there. Another application in the military would be flight helmets. We're looking to improve that as well. So there's a lot of different applications, but the beauty of our technology is it would apply across the board. We don't have to change our technology wholesale to apply properly to all those different applications.
When you say that your technology will apply to all of these different fields, will it be a one helmet made of the same material that's multi-use?
It would be similar materials. We might have different applications of those materials in certain
Okay.
ways, but the technology as a whole would remain much the same.
What types of materials do they use for helmets in different applications? Like I'm sure military helmets are probably made of something else compared to sports
Mhm.
or like for motorcycles.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. I know the military utilizes a lot of Kevlar and other materials that probably they can't even talk about.
Hmm.
Um, but in the sports world, you see a lot of plastics, a lot of foam. They're starting to bring in maybe some different type of rubber lining for the helmet now. I would say in the sports world, it's mostly you see a lot of plastic and foam.
When do you expect that it
Well,
would be coming
if
out?
everything falls into place, if we can gain the resources that we're looking for, I can have this
Mm-hmm.
helmet ready in 12 months for the field, which I'm pretty excited about. Part of the experience that we've had in developing SafeClip, I know what we need to do to get a prototype ready, and that's really going to expedite our timeline to get the helmet technology ready. So I'm very confident that if we can gain the resources that we need, the timeline that we need, I can
Hmm.
have the helmet ready for the field in late 2021. But
Wow.
that remains to be seen. I have to get the resources first. There's not a whole lot I can do without that.
So that's just getting the word out and getting investors. Do you know Todoly, the company Todoly?
That doesn't ring a bell. Are they? Do they do?
Yeah, it's a company in Detroit. I had talked to one of the founders of Todoly on a previous podcast episode, and he was telling me how they had secured funding. Is that I don't remember where exactly, but if I go back or if you go back and listen to the episode, you'll probably hear it in there. But he mentioned that they made a list, I think, of like 400 or like a couple hundred investors all over
Yeah.
the US. They would like ring them up, see if they would be interested, or they'd actually fly out there, give them the pitch. And out of these hundreds of investors, they narrowed it down to just a handful who actually gave them funding. And it took a lot of work. It was such a lengthy process. You know, out of that many people, there's only a couple who would be interested in your idea. And it might be a great idea, but
Oh
people
yeah.
are not ready to invest in things. Different investors, they were like, you know, it has to have this in your business, or you have to be doing this. And they weren't doing those things. Everyone
Yeah.
had a different
Fundraising is
idea of what it
very,
should be doing. Yeah.
yeah. Fundraising is a very time-consuming effort. It could be a full-time job, and a lot of people do fundraising full-time. But being a startup, there's other things that need your attention as well. So
Right.
fundraising does take a lot of time to do properly.
You mentioned that you were really involved with TechTown.
Tech town.
Are you like volunteering with them or?
Yeah, so we've done a number of different projects with them. We were actually one of their, I guess you would call alumni. We signed on with them for a 6-month term, and the entrepreneur in residence that I mentioned earlier, Jerry Roston, he was actually instrumental in helping us design the second generation of our product. He helped us with the CAD design. He has an engineering background, so we utilized his expertise to help us finalize and really make the product great. Without him, we probably would not be where we are today. So it's been good to work with TechTown.
Going back to the person I had interviewed from Todoly, they were in TechTown. They had gotten in because there's a process you have to go through, right? And only a couple entrepreneurs get selected.
Yeah, well, I would say there's certain programs that yes, you have to go through an application process, and not everybody's selected. But
Hmm.
anybody can go into TechTown and actually take advantage of the resources that are there. You can gain connections, you can network there. There's a lot of benefits from being involved with TechTown.
And so when you said that you had gone through the 6-week program, that was you got accepted into one of their entrepreneurial
Yeah,
programs.
I was accepted into their incubator program, which I believe is a 28-week program. We just wrapped that up a few weeks ago, but that was a great program. A lot of the people there just provided some great expertise. Rachel Allen, Marlo Renscher, Don Batts, Stefan Cisco, they all provided great knowledge for what we needed to do.
First, what was the process like getting in, and then what did you learn through that time?
Yeah, so originally we went through the application process early 2020. Originally, this was supposed to be an in-person incubator session every Saturday from 12 to 4. It morphed obviously into an online event. But the application process, well, we did a couple interviews. We're accepted into the incubator program with, I want to say, 5 other entrepreneurs who I still haven't had the pleasure of meeting in person, but I got to know them pretty well over Zoom. It was pretty intense. 28 weeks every weekend for 4 hours. And there was also a morning session for, I want to say, 5 or 6 weeks as well. We got some great expertise. We went through the proper processes, how to delegate your time properly, how to properly organize your business. Some of these things I had already done when we went through the incubator program, but they really provided a lot of expertise to do that properly. I really got a lot of good takeaways. We also developed a pitch deck that would suffice for fundraising. So that was a pretty involved process as well. It was fun. There's a lot of homework, a lot of pitching to other people, and it was just a really great process. So we started the process in January of 2020, early 2020. I don't remember the exact date, but it was early 2020 we started applying for that. It was supposed to originally start in, I believe, May, but due to the pandemic, it got pushed back.
When you graduate from this, what kind of resources do you have that you originally would not have had if you hadn't gone through it?
Yeah, so there was a little bit of monetary incentive with a lot of income programs, and this was no exception to this. We got a little bit of monetary incentive to do that as well. But the biggest thing that we got was just the knowledge and expertise that we gained. We gained a pitch deck that would fly with a lot of investors, a lot of VC firms, so that was big for us. We learned how to properly pitch for money that we wanted to raise, and so that was one of the biggest takeaways. And again, just the knowledge of being able to properly organize and run your company was, I think, invaluable as well.
When you say pitch, was it pitch deck? Is that the correct term? What does that mean? Is that just your business?
It's a slide deck. So I think you would have a 14 or 15, however many slides it is, but you have a pitch deck that you can send out to potential investors so they can get an idea of what your company does, what you're looking to raise, where you're at currently financially, and the background of the team and people that are involved with the company. To be able to properly do that in a way that really catches the investor's attention is something that is really great to learn, and that's what we did in the incubator.
It probably takes a lot of refining, right, to get that pitch going smoothly, and
a lot of time to practice your pitch, the presentation. It's basically a matter of memorizing what's on there and doing it better and better each time.
Well, you did it really well last week.
Well, thank you.
So, yeah. Did you guys have to present to any actual investors?
That was actually part of the graduation process, yes. So we actually pitched to a number of investors. I think there was 50 people present at the online event. I wish I would have been able to see them in person, but it just wasn't in the cards then. But we did pitch live to a number of investors, yes.
When did you graduate? If you got accepted?
I think it was late November, just before Thanksgiving.
Oh, you mentioned they had like a monetary incentive?
Yeah, a lot of incubator programs do. They'll say, well, if you participate or you're accepted into this incubator program, you get this amount of money at the completion. So this was no exception to that. And obviously, with the year that we've had, the money was much appreciated and actually is instrumental in helping us get through this.
Graduating with this program, you gained a lot of resources. You probably gained a bigger network as well.
For sure.
But I'm sure over time, it's really going to grow because it's a great idea. And it's really, especially for moms and for parents who have children in sports, they want to protect their children at all costs.
Moms are actually one of the biggest proponents of safety for their kids, if not the biggest. They want their kids to be safe at all costs.
If you like targeted Facebook ads or something with football moms or like sports moms, is that something you can actually target?
Yes, that's our plan. Again, we need the resources and funding to be able to do that, but that's our goal, to be able to target moms. I'd like to say if I was able to get in front of 1 million moms today, I'd be able to sell 1 million units today, because they're just so safety conscious. They want their kids to be safe.
And maybe when schools open back up, I don't know if they ever have, is it like a parents counselor or something where the school has these ideas and parents?
Yeah, booster clubs. There's I know there's moms groups. I'm looking to get involved with a lot of the moms groups, moms safety advocacy groups. There's a number of different things we can do. Yes.
I guess with COVID, once things like open back up and this is gone, then you guys will have a lot more opportunities to.
Yes, for sure. Across the board, we'll have opportunities, and it'll be nice to get to that day. I, for one, am kind of tired of the pandemic myself.
Oh, I'm sure. And especially like having a startup, you want to network, you want to get in front of people, and with your product, it's very hard to do that when the main use for your product, it's not being used. There's no sports.
Well, yeah. Networking has been difficult this year. Obviously, I mean, there's just no network going on. That's been a big hindrance to our development as a company. We have to get our company and product and name out there. It's hard to do that when you can't network. We'll get there.
Yeah, get there, yeah. So if there was nothing else I missed, then I guess we're pretty much done. It's been like almost an hour, I think. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me. Really,
yeah, of course.
Really honored to be here.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.